Today on the show, I have the pleasure of chatting with Don Costa. Now, Don is a real estate investor and an entrepreneur. He is the host of the Flip Talk podcast and the founder of the Inner Circle Elite Mastermind, where he shares his knowledge, tips, and tricks from other investors who are flipping houses every single day. He built his business after hitting rock bottom way back in 2012, and at the time, he made a decision to change his mindset. And as if he was building one of the biggest and largest, most reputable house flipping businesses in the country, and that's what he's done exactly that today. That mindset gave him the strength to overcome obstacles and the confidence to build the necessary relationships for him to succeed. So I'm really pumped and excited to have him on the show today to share his incredible knowledge with us. But enough out of me, let's get him out here. G'day, Don. Welcome to the show. How you doing today, mate?
I'm doing good, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. You're just up the street from me, right in Fresno.
I am. I'm about 4 hours away, yes. Roughly. Yeah,
exactly. Nice. Well, mate, it's great to have you on the show. Really looking forward to diving into it. But before we do, can you rewind the clock and tell me how you made your first ever dollar as a kid?
You know, that's a great question. I want to say I made my first ever dollar working in a rabbit farm, of all places. I'm trying to think if I made money before that, but it was probably my first job. I was about 13 or 14. And I got a job with some people that owned a rabbit farm, and I just basically was medicating the rabbits and feeding the rabbits and doing stuff like that. So that's probably about it.
Meat rabbits?
What's that?
Were they meat rabbits for eating?
They were meat rabbits, absolutely. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. Interesting. That's you don't hear meat rabbit. I guess you do some restaurants you go to, but I don't see meat on a rabbit on the menu very much when I go to a steakhouse. So definitely something to. You always hear rabbit stew, but you never hear rabbit lamb chops or something like not lamb chops, rabbit chops. So awesome stuff. But now walk us through the journey, right? Was there a when we mentioned 2012 hitting rock bottom? Do you want to talk a little bit about that, and then what you've built over the last 10 years now in the fix and flipping space?
Yeah, there is a pre-journey. So, like I think a lot of people, especially more nowadays than ever, when you're entrepreneurial, you can't. A time clock's a prison, and I've had a number of jobs since that rabbit job. And I always had a hard time being in the time clock prison, and so I was always wanting to be an entrepreneur. I just was trying to find the widget that worked. And I think like a lot of people, not coming from a business background, not coming from a successful family, it was a lot of trial and error and fail along the way. So I've owned cell phone stores. I learned a very important lesson about profitability and cash flow. We're actually a very profitable, successful business, but the way the business was structured, we had zero cash flow. So we couldn't stay in business long-term. That was one of my first entries into business. And I've done a few other things. I circled the real estate investing side. It was something that really interested me for a lot of years, and finally got into it in 2003. And that became the widget that I stuck to. So from 2003 to 2008, I had made more money than I'd ever seen in my life, a lot easier than I ever made money. And, I had a couple of failures in business, but nothing that had really educated me on how to be a good leader, how to be a good business owner, how to do good negotiations, all that kind of stuff. So when 2008 hit, it shined a big light on the fact that I was running a very bad business, and a good economy hides a bad business. Back then, 2003, 4, and 5, the housing market was on fire. I was running a very bad business, and I ended up losing everything from about 2008 to 2012. The greatest analogy of that aspect of it, why did it take me 4 years to lose everything? The greatest analogy of that is jumping off a building, right? As a human being, if you jump off a building, what kills you is the fall or the splat. It's the splat, right? Mm-hmm. And so in a business, when you jump off a building, what kills you is the fall or the splat. Well, in business, the fall kills you. And so another lesson that I learned as a business person is sometimes it's better just to hit bottom and start over. And instead, I tried to hold on to things for a lot of years. And I tried to just, grasp at this and grasp at that and keep this alive and keep that alive. And I just bled out over a period of years until I finally hit the ground. I hit the splat and decided it was time to start over. So in 2012, I dusted myself off, tried to get a job, tried to find other options, was scared to death of real estate. But really, my skill set is talking to sellers, putting deals together, raising private money, really good at managing rehabs. And so I just got back into what I knew and started my business all over again in 2012 with, at the time, almost $1 million judgment against me. after losing everything, after almost losing my home, with 2 kids and a wife, started over and kind of rebuilt from there. So that's the background.
That's awesome. It's an incredible story, and something that I think a lot of people don't necessarily take into consideration, that sometimes you got to go through that pain to come out the other side. It's like when you have a forest fire and it burns everything, and then it comes back even better, and it needs healthier, stronger, needs to come out. You need to go through that pain. I guess, what are some of the lessons that you took out of what was the business running bad? You mentioned that you weren't doing a good job. Give us an example, what was it that was sort of came to your undoing?
It was taking everything. There's a lot of things. Taking everything everybody said at face value. When I would meet with a contractor and they'd say 2 weeks and 20 grand will be done, and I'd shake their hand, and it'd be 4 or 5 months later, and it cost me 40 grand or 50 grand to rehab the project. I didn't think anything was wrong with that, because in that market, it took me a few months longer to do the deal, so I ended up making more money. And so, but that's unrealistic. That's kind of like what we just went through in 2020 and 2021, right? An unrealistic kind of on fire market. And so there was that aspect of it. I was a kind of a control freak. All the decisions had to be made by me. I didn't trust or rely on anybody. So it was a bottleneck in my organization. I failed at building good, strong teams. I failed at recognizing opportunity, and sometimes recognizing what was an opportunity. When you get started in business, in any new business, there's an optimistic naivety I like to refer to, where you feel like you can conquer the world, especially if you have success out of the gate. And I thought everything that I touched turned to gold. So I was doing everything. I opened a restaurant and nightclub. I was starting a sunglass line. I was investing in real estate projects that I probably shouldn't have been investing in. I was taking gambles that I probably shouldn't have been taking. And, but I just thought it was never going to end. And so some of the lessons you learn is, in order to be a good leader, you got to be able to build a team around you that you can not only trust their own decisions, but they will trust their ability to make decisions. And then you got to rely on that team. You got to get people better than you and get out of their way so you can build a good business. Cash flow is more important than profitability. So if you don't build a company that has strong either capital reserves or cash flow opportunities, eventually, no matter what you do, you're going to have a hard time running that business. Making sure that when we're taking risks, we're taking calculated, smart risks in this business, and we're betting on what we know that's going to happen and not what we hope is going to happen in the market. Those are all things that I learned early on. Yeah.
It sounds like the word discipline comes to mind, from me, just hearing you say that, being disciplined and having an approach to going off and should you invest in a sunglass line or a nightclub or that deal you shouldn't have done. And I think that's, to your point of you take things for granted and you're making money really easily. You gloss over systems that you probably need to be putting in place to allow yourself to have those train tracks, right? So the business doesn't go off the line, or someone else, you can say, hey, these are the processes we need to follow. Go off and make that decision on behalf of the business. And I know you shouldn't fail because you're following these train tracks, right? That's what I'm hearing from you.
Well, I wouldn't say you're not going to have obstacles in your business, but at least the obstacles are going to be a lot more manageable when they come, and you're going to be a lot more prepared for them.
Yep, that's it. That's exactly right. Let's flip to what you built today, right? Where you are now. What have you grown from to rebuild after 2008, 2012? What does it look like today?
Well, over the years, I built a very disciplined business in a lot of sense. We started off with rehabbing, and we stuck to rehabbing single family homes. We didn't deviate from our buy box or our model. We established that fairly early. We like first time buyer, second time buyer properties. We like specific areas, neighborhoods, types of properties. We look for, building a team even outside of our organization. Everybody that I want to hire needs to be teachable and coachable. That includes the contractors and vendors we work with. If there's somebody that isn't teachable and coachable, if there's somebody that we can't develop into the team that we need, we're not going to work with them. We look at everybody, including the people on our team, as people that we have a responsibility to make the best version of themselves in the seat that they're in. And that includes our outside vendors. So it's not just like, oh, you weren't what I needed, I'm gonna discard you. It's if you're teachable and coachable and you're not quite what I needed on this project, can I make you better? And that's how we approach things. That allowed us to kind of build our business. We've taken risks, with marketing and different things like that. In 2018, I sent out $1.2 million postcards. And I tested and tracked everything. So we were very scientific about, what we were doing and what made us successful in our operation. And that's just an example of marketing, but we were the same thing internally, right person, right seat. What are the systems and process? What are the ways we can set them up for success? What are the KPIs and metrics we can hold them to? And we built a business that did, for a number of years, about 130 rehabs a year and about 60-ish wholesalers a year. So we're doing about 200 deals a year. Since 2020, I've been focusing mostly on educating people in the space, running the mastermind community and doing that kind of stuff. So we scaled back on our volume. We're still doing deals today. We scaled back on our volume, but we still run a phenomenal company. Now today, my mission is really helping entrepreneurs not create a prison. And I got the opportunity to look at, from the perspective of building the business I built, and looking at other people's businesses from a high level. And there's a lot of people in this industry that they believe in scale, and they don't understand really what it is going to take for them to accomplish their dreams. So they'll scale past that and they'll end up creating a prison for themselves. And I hit that point myself where, you have these, like you said, rails, right? In a business, you have these kind of fat times where, the rails, you're within your rails and everything's going well. Well, then the train tracks start to choke off a little bit when you're scaling past like your team's capacity, your monetary capacity, and you got to choose to either grow through that or scale back down. And a lot of people will continue to grow, and they won't understand that you have to systematize, reprioritize, maybe shed some of your team or add some of your team in order to properly grow through that. And they'll end up creating a prison that they're not happy with. So my mission now is the most profitable business you can have. And for myself and anybody else, and not have a prison. Yeah.
No, I've actually got the book right next to me. I don't know if you use it, Traction.
Traction's huge, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to pull that out, right? So, no, it's so important. The word prison is right. Like, we all start being solo entrepreneurs. What people listening to the show, you and I both have that same itch inside of us to go off and be our own boss, right? And when you get started in it, you do everything in the business, from marketing to admin to sales to operations to disposition, whatever it is. Insert widget here. It doesn't have to necessarily be real estate, but you're doing it all. And when you do come to the point where you have to learn to let go and set up those systems, you realize so many times, and I'm guilty of this, that I'm like, I can just do it better than that other person, right? I can do it all. And it's that sole entrepreneur curse, I guess, the founder syndrome, right? They talk about where you need to learn to let go of the vine, which is what they talk a lot about in Traction and EOS. So and that comes from being self-aware, right? That doesn't just come from that. You're not just born with self-awareness. You have to grow that. And I think through coming through failures like yourself, or understand personal loss, or whatever it might be. People come through to self-awareness in different ways, but it is so important to then be the better leader for the business. And I love what you said there about, teachable and coachable, because not everyone will be that right fit immediately, right? And so many people are just, boom, fire them. They're no good. But if they're willing to learn and change, I think that is having the patience to invest in people. And I think that's super, super important. Tell me more about the mastermind community and what you built there, because I think a pivot away from doing deals into coaching, I see a lot of people making that transition. What was it personally for you? Why did you want to do it? Was it just because it was easier, or you just wanted to give back, or it was just like, I'd scratched that itch of doing this 200 deals a year and now I needed something else to keep the fire alive? Like, what was it?
Yeah, there was part of it. I've been a real estate investor for the most part of 20 years now. Mm-hmm. And, with the exception of losing everything and being educated, I've been flipping or wholesaling in some capacity. I have a lot more knowledge from a time perspective of that particular part of the industry than a lot of coaches in the industry. So I felt an obligation to give some of that knowledge. We're still actively doing deals now. Like, I don't want to even take away from, I still have a company. We're still actively doing deals. There's a legacy play there. There's a point where it's like, what do I want to do to fundamentally change, the legacy that I stand for? How do I want to affect the world? And one of the ways that you can't touch water without making a ripple is the best way to say it. Like when everything you do has a cause and effect in life, every decision you make has a cause and effect. And one of the things that I want to do where I touch water and make a ripple is the legacy play, where it's like, I can affect businesses and individuals in a way that will allow them to change things generationally. And maybe long after I'm forgotten, that ripple will still be going, if that makes sense. And so that was more of, it was just a deeper kind of calling, if that makes sense. I love people. I love the community we have. I love spending time with them. We were in New Orleans for our last meeting. We meet all over the country 4 times a year. And I remember we were at this bar in the evening, and there was the horrible karaoke type band playing, but there was a bunch of us there, and we were singing and having a good time and just, kind of playing along with this band. And I remember that moment of just thinking, like, there's nothing that I'd rather do than be right here in this moment with these people. So, not only do I get to help these businesses and give my input, I get to watch other communities help each other, community members help each other, and they do deals together and they advise each other. But I get to hang out with some of the greatest investors and like-minded people in the country. And for me, that's just, I don't know, it feels something for me at this point in my life, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. And I love the touching of the water and making the ripples. I think that you're probably a little bit older than I am, but there is that youthfulness of got to scale that mountain and do the deals and be the junkie. And then there comes a point in your life where you transition to, more wise and thinking long term and when you're gone and that sort of stuff, and what's the most impact you can do today. And I see I've done 400 episodes on this podcast, interviewed 400 different awesome entrepreneurs and CEOs, and it all seems like there's the same progress in life, and it's how much is enough, right? And what does doing the 200 deals a year give you that rush, or is it trying to plant a flag and be remembered for something and creating that ripple, as you mentioned earlier, and help other people and affect them in a positive way. So I think that's really, really awesome of you to be able to go down that path. Remind the listeners what's the name of the mastermind. They want to know more about it.
Yeah, it's called the Inner Circle Elite Mastermind. And you can go to beinThisRoom.com if you want to check it out. You can also email me the word mastermind to fliptalkdon@fliptalk.com, and I'll respond. You'll get me. So, but yeah, I mean, it's just, the word mastermind has been thrown around a lot. Everybody that has a course or a call calls it a mastermind, and they're not wrong. But to me, a true mastermind community is when you're meeting on a regular basis and you're really collaborative and you're really trying to help each other out. And you're really trying to solve problems in each other's businesses, and you are a community. And that's really what we're working hard to create.
That's great. That's awesome. What does the community look like today, and how have you cultivated it to continue growing? Because I know sometimes communities can get out of the gate really, really well, but that continuation of adding awesome value to others seems to be, to the distance between the difference between a sprinter in a racehorse and a long distance runner.
Yeah. So, I mean, our community today, we have just shy of 100 active investors from around the country. They are all legitimate business owners. We actually have a lower version of that, where if you're just getting started, that's a whole different conversation. We have a community for that as well. But the community we're talking about here is for active real estate investors running an actual business. We have a member that has a $40 million portfolio, as an example. Again, we're not trying to be the biggest. We're trying to find that balance of having new life within the community and making sure there's always value without being, a situation where you're a faceless, sheep in the herd, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And so, and again, a lot of our members have been with us for the last 3, 4, 5 years now. We're about almost 5 years old. So we've had members since the beginning that are still with us. Our attrition is really low. We're selective about who we add. We want to make sure that, again, you have experience and you're able to add value and receive value. And we try to find a good balance. So we launched this just before COVID. Talk about launching a business in the worst possible time. But we launched an in-person mastermind, and then COVID hit and shut down for a couple of years. And so we've overcome that aspect of it as well. So like I said, I just feel like we have a phenomenal, good mix of wholesalers, rehabbers, buy and hold, Airbnb individuals, all active business owners.
Going to pivot a little bit. Talk to me a little bit about how you've seen, because of your experiences coming out of 2008, 2009, you mentioned earlier, and I just want to go back to it. You said, we saw the same run up in values in 2020, 2021. Are you seeing same hallmarks of pre-2008, 2009 now?
I mean, you see some things pop up here and there. I mean, for a minute, we were starting to see some different things with, no documentation loans and stuff start to creep in. And there's some aspects of it. Absolutely. I want to say, from my perspective, it's different in a lot of ways. Pre-2008, you had people that had no business owning, multiple homes, no business owning one home, owning multiple homes. We don't really have that. The lending standards going into, 2020, 2021, 2022, we're still fairly conservative. So we still have supply chain issues in a lot of market when it comes to demand for properties. Interest rates obviously are affecting it, but there's differences. So here's the thing. I'm the wrong person to ask because I lost everything once, and I don't believe that I learned exactly how to time the market anyway. In 2020, I thought the thing was going to go to crap. I mean, let's just be honest. I thought it was going to go to hell, and it didn't. It went on fire. It went the total opposite direction I thought it was going to go. And I think for a lot of us, we were surprised about that. I think everybody here is still preaching doom and gloom because they've been preaching doom and gloom since 2012, and nobody really has the answer. There are fundamental differences, and there are some things are the same, and it's just hard to say which one's going to play out. So that's my answer is just run a good business, be a good leader, prepare for the worst and hope for the best, and always run your numbers when you're doing anything based on what you can do today, not what you think you can do tomorrow. And that's it.
Right. What are you, where are you investing right now? What's your active market across the country?
So if we're going to rehab anything, it's going to be in the Central Valley, California. So
Gotcha.
Anything that we're going to rehab is going to be within the vicinity of our control at the moment. We will wholesale all over the country, and I'll pick up properties. I'll hold properties all over the country. I had a property I just sold in South Carolina that I held for a couple of years as a rental. So I bought it sub-2. Probably shouldn't have sold it, but the value went up so high it was hard to say no. We've wholesaled in Tennessee, St. Louis, you name it. So we'll wholesale all over the country, buy and hold all over the country, but rehab in California.
Whereabouts in SC are you? Where was that property? Where in South Carolina were you?
It was in Columbia, South Carolina.
Oh, nice. Yeah. We're actively investing in Greenville, South Carolina. So love that market. Well, cool, man. Well, as you look towards the end of the year and beyond, what's the drive now? What are you hoping to achieve in the next 12 to 24 months, both personally and within the business?
Yeah. So basically, we're taking on the real estate investing side. I've had an office since 2012. I'm actually at the end of this month closing my office. It'll be the first time I will not have an office. We're taking our operation 100% virtual. Most of our team now on that side is VAs anyway. So that's going to be an interesting kind of adventure for us, kind of just resetting how we do things as an operation. On the education side, we're looking to start to add incredible members to our communities there and continue to grow that and add value where we can. And I actually just picked up a company in February. I won't go into that right now, but it's in a completely different industry, but it ties into real estate and what we're doing. I shouldn't say it's a completely different business model, but ties into everything we're doing with the education and our real estate investing. So just getting that to where we want to get it to market it is a huge component of what we're doing right now. So I didn't learn everything I needed to. I'm not sticking to one business, which I probably should from 2008. That was a huge lesson. But the businesses I'm in are all related to each other. And that's the component that's changed. They're not like apples and oranges. They're apples and apples. So
I was just going to ask, it's not another smoke shop or, nightclub or sunglass hut.
No, it's not.
No, and I love hearing entrepreneurs when they understand like real estate is or the widget of real estate is really, really powerful, but creating the ecosystem is the holy grail, right? When you can control, not maybe control, but you have a piece of the supply or a piece of the construction or a piece of the management, and I'm talking specifically about real estate, but if you had another widget, it's creating the ecosystem around the businesses to make it all churn off one another. And I always use the analogy of like a table, right? One leg, you can't support a table, right? Which might
Right.
just be acquisitions. You have to have other legs going
Right.
to support the table, otherwise it will fall over, or the stool, or whatever you want to say. So awesome! Might have to get you back and tell us how it's going once you've got it up and running. But glad to hear it's not you've learned from the lessons in the past. But with that being said, I'd like to dive into the top 5 investing tips. You ready to get into it?
100%.
Mate, question was, what's the daily habit you practice to keep on track towards your goals?
Oh, wow. Nothing sexy. I would love to say I do affirmations and different things like that. A daily huddle of my team is I found very important. I got away from that for a while, and I find that the team as a whole is dispersed and not coherent. So especially more and more now that our world is becoming virtual, doing a daily huddle with your team is huge to staying on task and on goal, not only as a team, but as an individual. It holds me accountable as well.
No, I think I love that. And as you mentioned earlier, people are moving away from the office where you had the ability to pop your head in the door. What's going on? Oh, I can't do that anymore. Having that daily huddle. My team's all virtual as well, and make sure at least having one-on-one conversations with key members and or having our weekly get together. So awesome stuff. Question number 2 is, who's been the most influential person in your career to date?
Oh, wow. In my career to date, I've had several influential people. That's a hard one to nail down. I'm going to get the candid answer, I think, is my grandparents. It's not one person. They were grounded in a lot of ways. And, I got away from being grounded for a while. I kind of became a douchebag for a good period of time there when I was making money. So one of the key things for my grandfather was family was the most important thing. And I think that trying to hold true to that legacy is very important. You get away, you start making money and you get away from that. A lot of us will get into this to have freedom, and we forget why we get into this. And it's freedom with our family. It's being able to spend time with our kids. I got a daddy-daughter dance tonight with my daughter. She's 9. My oldest just finished his first year in college. I'm moving him home tomorrow for the summer. And I have the freedom to do those things. But for a long time, I was like, well, I got to work and I got to do this and I got to do that. And I was too busy, again, being in a prison and forgetting, why I was doing what I was doing. And I think my grandfather's version of success is the version of success, right? It's legacy and family. What are you really going to be remembered for? And coming back to that, I think as I'm getting older and realizing the importance of that is significant, and making sure that I'm running a good business for my people and I'm running a good business for myself.
I love it. That's so self-aware, and I'll wrap it up at the end by that. But that's an awesome answer. Question number 3 is, what's the most influential tool in your business? And when I say tool, it could be a physical tool like a phone or a journal, or it could be a piece of software that you just can't run the business without. What is it?
People.
Yep.
People. People are, look, everything else is easy in this business. The fundamentals, as long as you do it by numbers, pretty much any business is easy to run. People are the hardest component. Finding good people. But once you find good people, they are the catalyst to your success. And so, as a tool, getting the right people in your organization, making sure that you're being a good leader, making sure that you're representing them properly, that you have them in the right seat, and that you're helping them be successful is huge. And I wouldn't be where I'm at all. I mean, you could take all the tools and everything else away. I could still get there without them. I started in 2003. We didn't have CRMs. We didn't have Google
virtual assistants.
We didn't have virtual assistants. We didn't have YouTube University. We didn't have podcasts. I was able to do this flipping through a piece of paper on Microsoft Streets and Maps, going door to door with a foreclosure list with a title company. So people really is the component. People broke me in the first time because I was a bad leader, and there was been a big portion of my success this time.
Love it. That sort of segues into my 4th question is, what has been the biggest failure in your career? And what did you learn from that failure?
I mean, I've had several failures in my career, and I've learned something different from each one. The cell phone stores, I learned that access to capital and cash flow is more important in your business than anything else when it comes to success in your business. And that's a whole different story I can go down on how I learned that. When I failed, being able to peel back the onion on why I failed in 2008, 9, and 10, being a bad leader, being a bottleneck, not running a good business, not holding people accountable, not knowing my numbers. There's all kinds of lessons that come from it. So I've learned something from every failure. And you got to approach entrepreneurship with the mindset that you're going to fail probably in some way every day, and multiple times in your life in a big way. And every opportunity to fail is an opportunity to learn something and grow as an individual. There's not one failure that I've had that I wouldn't take back. I would leave them right where they are because they've made me who I am. They made me a better father, a better husband, a better leader in every single sense of the word. And so as an entrepreneur, a lot of us are scared. We don't want to do it because we might fail or we might trip up. We want it all perfect before we take action. For somebody that's new listening to this, you don't want to pick up the phone call and call a seller because you might make a mistake. But you don't know what those mistakes are. You don't know how to do it right until you make those mistakes. And so you should welcome every opportunity to make a mistake because it only makes you better.
Love it. Love that answer. Mate, last question is, where can people reach to continue the conversation? They want to be in your sphere. Where do they go?
You can find me at the Flip Talk podcast. It is everywhere. It's been around for about 7 years. You can email me at don@fliptalk.com. I do respond to my emails, and I'm all over social media. So usually at the real Don Costa is the handle.
Awesome stuff, my friend. Well, look, I want to thank you so much for jumping on the show today. I just want to reflect some of the things that I took away from today's show. I love what you said earlier about, in and around discipline, learning discipline early, having teachable moments and coachable team members, the ripple effect. But I think what the biggest thing I've taken away from today is your ability to have self-awareness, right? To you mentioned earlier, you self-proclaimed douchebag when you had too much money. I think that is so important as a leader to be self-aware after failures, after having those life lessons that have really whacked you over the back of the head, to come back stronger, to come back better. And then, now as you transition into, we'll call the owner's box, you're now looking at legacy and family and what never forgetting why you got into this business in the first place. And I think so many people get so lost with the money aspect of it that they lose the other things, that the health, the family, any sort of spirituality that you're into, or meditation, and talk about back to the stool analogy, the pillars, right? Business is only one of those pillars in life, and you fail in other areas. There's only one way to go, and that's down. So I think awesome stuff, mate. I really appreciate your vulnerability. Did I leave anything out there?
No, I think it's good. Yeah, no, I mean, that's perfect takeaways.
Awesome, brother. Well, look, again, thank you for jumping on today's show. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll catch up very, very soon.
Appreciate it.
Well, there you have another cracking episode jam-packed with awesome stuff from Don. He really, really unleashed and came up with a lot of vulnerability. Really, really great stuff. If you want to check him out, it's theflippodcast.com, theflippodcast.com. Check him out there. Don Costa, all on social media. Again, we'd like to thank you all for taking some time out of your day to tune in to continue to grow your financial IQ, because that's what we do here on the show. The easiest way to give back is to give it a 5-star review on iTunes, and we're going to do this all again next week. So remember, be bold, be brave, and go give life a crack. Awesome, brother.